Gracias, Maritza. Bienvenidos a todos. Welcome, everybody. It is really delightful to be here, and it's delightful to have everybody here. The university, the Paul Moravsky School of Business is so incredibly grateful that we can convene all of us to be here. And thank you to the panelists. What we're going to be doing over the next little bit is we're going to be talking specifically about the experiences that the different professionals that are on our panel have had to reach the level of excellence, la excelencia. That's my phone.
So I said to him, Gerardo, I'm finally going to get to introduce you as being from Guadalajara. And he says to me, I have to bring my phone. Y fíjate, here we have it.
Sorry. That is a very different way.
If we
Because
may ask you to silence your cell phone.
yes, it's terrible. I thought I had it on silent. Okay, so that happens again. Because also as a professor, when that happens in your classroom, you go to the student that it happens to, right? And now all of a sudden, I'm that guy. Perdón. But what I would like to do is I would like us to take advantage of our speakers today to really talk about the experiences that they have had, to talk about the obstacles that you have faced, and especially how you have faced them to really, as I said, achieve excellence in your careers. So let's start off, if we could, just by going across our speakers. If you could just say a tiny little bit about when you think about moments that have been instrumental in your career, to turn, moments where you turn, moments where you took a different path that led you to where you are. What are some of the things that you think about?
I guess I'm getting started here. First, actually, before I start answering the question, I want to just give a big thank you to Dr. Ramos for her public service and dedication to all of us here in California. So just thank you from my heart. So I just have to say that there's a few moments in my life, and I'm not gonna go through all of them, but just maybe one that really resonated with me is when my twin daughters were born. Usually that's a time of chaos and a lot of things happening in life that tend to just mix everything up, right? For me, it was a moment of understanding in my career. I have all these things going on where I just don't know really where I'm going, right? I came to that realization of, okay, I have two babies that are always hungry and I don't have a clear North Star of where I want to go. So that was a catalyst to get, what I would say, very laser focused on, I need to get the right advice from the right mentors on what is it that I need to do in my career to be successful, right? And actually, be able to give, my daughters a good life. So I really took it upon myself to make the time, to make the effort, to really just take the hard path, right? To ask for advice and also tell people these are my aspirations, this is what I want. And just formulating that was really hard for me. That's not something that I was, trained or raised to do. So I had to really, it was a very hard path. But then that gave me a lot of clarity. I realized that I had a lot of people in my network that really cared about my success and wanted to help me. But if I didn't ask for help, if you don't ask for help, then people don't know how to help you, right? So I realized that, the people around me wanted me to succeed and gave me the advice and the support that I needed. And then that put me on a path that I would say was very purpose-driven. And, okay, this is what I truly want to do and accomplish in my career. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, I have many, many moments, and once you have a few, I started searching for the pivotal moments, right? But I would definitely say that coming here 20 years ago, I immigrated, and I had being a top of the class student, had a great job in Argentina, working for a bank, and I came here, and that mattered zero. Nobody even could find Argentina in the map. So let alone my credentials. So so I had to start a lot, from behind when I was even started in Argentina, and so for me that was a moment of a lot of lessons. The number one was humility, and that is being a humble leader has accompanied me across my career. And I thank the day that I actually had to experience that, because we get humble in our lives all the time by a lot of situations. So it was really good for it to happen to me early on in my career. I went from this super great job to literally minimum wage photocopying funding packages for a mortgage company. So I had the choice to see myself also as a victim of the situation, and I would come back home like crying and like, this is so unfair, and everybody thinks I'm stupid because I have like this heavy accent and nobody understands, and I don't understand what they're saying half of the time. But I eventually snapped out of the situation by changing my lenses and seeing this as an opportunity. I learned that at that time of my life that I actually can reinvent myself as many times as I need, and I can change the story that I tell myself so I don't see myself disempowered in a situation like that. So those two lessons, or three, whatever, have accompanied me throughout my career and throughout my leadership. They've definitely defined me and how I interact with others. And so that's one of the pivot moments.
Thank you. And Carlos, Gerardo, somos paisanos. My family is from Jalostotitlan, Jalisco, so an hour from Guadalajara. Yeah. So I love the music. And in terms of kind of a pivotal moment that I can see, I think it was the pandemic. If I can give anyone career advice, if you want work-life balance, do not be in HR during a pandemic. That's where we were. But I think just as a leader, being able to connect to a sense of purpose, it was like nothing I had felt before, right? And that feeling of working hard hours, but you knew, like, we were an essential business, we were open for business the entire time. HR, we were scrambling, we were trying to meet, all of the needs of our people, right? And it's just, if I can give anyone any advice, is as a leader, try to find a sense of purpose to connect to, because then it makes everything worthwhile. The long days, the long hours, if you're saying, this is for, we're focused on our people, that's the most important thing. Our customers too, they were so nice during the pandemic. Can you guys keep being nice? The labor shortages and everything. If our customers could be as nice as they were during the pandemic, that would be really great too. But yeah, I just think the sense of purpose and the togetherness of my team during the pandemic was something I had never felt before, and I really want to take forward in everything I do now. Every project, try to find that sense of purpose, connect to it, and it makes everything. It's no longer a job, right? It's a higher calling. It's a purpose that you have to serve, right? So. That was mine, the pandemic, I shouldn't look fondly on the pandemic, but that sense of purpose, like I said, was something I can't describe almost.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's amazing. Let me follow up a little bit with each one of you with a slightly different question. If I can ask you, you talk about needing to be humble and to lead by being humble. Often, though, in the society that we find ourselves in, that's not always the best strategy. There are people that are better self-promoters, I want to say. How do you weigh the desire to be a humble leader with sometimes the reality that in the organizations that many of us participate in, that's not what they're looking for? How do you think through that?
Oh, that's such a great point, especially being a woman in corporate America. It's and a Latina woman in corporate America. That was tough because, to your point, as a humble leader, and I am also very caring, kind of relationship-based leader, that I want to kind of know my people and what take them, what are they looking for. I tend to focus more downward, managing down as opposed to managing up. But that doesn't mean that we have to. I mean, one of the key things that we can do as a leader, and I think that separates the good from the best, is storytelling. So it's not about, the humbling part is about knowing that you don't know everything. You never stop learning. It's being vulnerable in a way that allows you to be open to the information, to the that you're going to get from others, to the learnings that others are going to bring. For the last 15 years, I've been leading teams of extremely technical, super deep subject matter experts. So for sure, I'm a business, I'm an MBA. I could not do anything of what they can do. So that humility puts me in a place where, like, asking myself all the time, what do I bring to the table? How do I serve them, right? And how do I then tell the story about the greatness that I'm, privileged to lead to the upper management? How do I expose that? So the storytelling, it's something that it's a discipline, it's an art that I've been trying to learn and keep try to get better at, so that you can be humble in a purposeful way. It's not that that you feel like weak because you don't know everything. It makes you open, and then how do you take that great story of your team or like your peers, and you learn to tell that story in a way that is compelling.
So in other words, it's sort of like the way that you alert everybody to the great work that is happening is by telling the story of the people that are working around you, that are working with you, to be able to. And I tell them
that's my job. My job is to be able to tell the story, so I can avail you resources, that I can, help you get where you want to get. Your job is to give me the nuggets, right? I'm going to tell you. I usually tell my team, like, for instance, like, this is what I want to be able to say. How do we get there?
Right.
Yeah, give me, what do we need to do to be able to say X?
And hopefully, if this is all happening, the people that have a little bit of sense will pick up that part of what you're saying is, I am leading an amazing team.
And they actually know by the fact that I actually bring the resource. I mean, there's a credibility that goes into, delivering on, like, I am going to tell you the story, and the story is bringing us the resources or bringing the promotions, and I make that my purpose. My purpose is to tell that story, because I could not do any of what my team does. I mean, they're like data scientists, data engineers, couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So.
Evelyn, well, with that, let me let me come to Evelyn and ask you a question, again related to purpose. I completely buy it, right? I mean, I am lucky. I'm a teacher. I'm a researcher. I do things that I love doing, and I think that is so helpful in motivating me in allowing me to do the things that I do, right? But how do you discover that? For so many of us, I mean, it sounds like for you, part of it, I don't know if you discovered it during the pandemic or if the pandemic just really clearly reinforced that this is who you were. And in that case, how would you recommend that people try to discover this?
That's great. And yeah, I think I was always, a sense of purpose. I mean, it's a family business, right? So there was always that sense of purpose where my grandfather, emigrated. They opened the first store with $20. They couldn't change Northgate's name because they didn't have enough money to change the name, right? So you hear all of these stories. So I feel the sense of purpose for the family business was always there. But within HR, the purpose was more clarified during the pandemic, where it was just more of a FYI, you're at the right spot to kind of fulfill your passion, and your passion is people. And humility, I completely agree. As women, as everyone maybe, we're a little too humble sometimes. But I think if we complement humility with passion, it's when you're passionate, you are purpose-driven. It's almost like a humble brag because you're passionate, right? You're selling it. And I think to find that purpose, and maybe a shortcut is to follow your passions if you can, right? if you follow your passions, you're more likely to end up somewhere where you feel that sense of purpose, right? But even in a job where maybe you're like, wow, I did not envision myself, I'm actually a graduate of UCI, Zot Zot, and I did not study HR. I kind of, I got there, I don't even know how I got there, to be honest, looking back, but once I was there, I was able to find the purpose, right? So again, if you can follow your passion, that might be a little shortcut to finding a purpose-driven, career. But even if you end up somewhere where you're like, I don't know how I ended up here, you can find, purpose in what you're doing, right? Because you just have to connect it to an outcome. What are you doing, and how is it, touching the community, your coworkers? So I think you can always find purpose. Again, you can follow your passions, but even if you're like me, you end up in a department where you're like, whoa, how did I get here? You can still find purpose if you're really looking for it, right? And you can find, new passions wherever you end up. So again, I think, if you can follow your passions, but even if you end up somewhere where you kind of didn't see, coming, really think about what you're giving back. And everyone in any career gives back in so many ways. You just kind of have to discover what that, end product is that you're giving. And that's your purpose, and it'll drive you forward in any project from then on, because you see kind of the end product of what you're putting in.
Thank you. And so, Carlos, let me for you flip the question a little bit around based on what you already shared with the group. You said that there was this moment where seeking advice from others became really, really important. Was that something that you hadn't done before? Was it something that it almost sounds like you're saying that stretched you in an important way in a direction that maybe you hadn't done before? Am I hearing you right?
I think it comes down to the clarity of thinking that I had in the middle of all the chaos of maybe asking the right questions to the right people. Because one thing I realized, I've been asking, parts of my network for probably the wrong advice. Maybe I've been asking the wrong questions. And it became, that moment of clarity of, okay, I need to be laser focused if I want to do this right. And that, out of all the, storm around me, right, it came that moment of, let me ask, a very senior partner if he can meet me for coffee on like a Saturday morning, right? And ask the questions, hey, this is what I really want to do. What do you think? And also asking from a place of vulnerability that maybe before I had a little bit of a wall in front of me or a glass in front of me. So, asking it from that point of and to your point, humility and vulnerability and the advice I got in that breakfast that Saturday morning changed my life, because what I heard from this very senior partner, Carlos, you're doing a good job. Like you're a great guy. Like everybody likes you in the practice, but you're like peanut butter. You're doing a lot of everything in many places. And if a client calls me tomorrow and I don't know what to call you for. Like if a client sends me a text Sunday morning, hey, I need your help, and bring me the best team Monday morning, I don't know what I will call you for. So that gave me that. But see, I wouldn't have gotten to that question nor that answer if I didn't have that vulnerability about, hey, I really need help here. And it's not like I was doing poorly, but certainly.
No, but about sharpening then your career at that moment, and that was a turning point as well then for you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. And so, in the environment that we're in, we know that Latinos are increasingly a part of the workforce, and yet many of the structures of business and everything are still not organized necessarily to have Latino values and Latino culture in mind, right? Sort of like the simple idea that we don't just have in our immediate family is not just our brothers and our sisters, but nuestros primos, nuestros tíos, nuestras madrinas, nuestros padrinos, everybody, right? And how have you felt the need to try to adjust yourself to that environment, or have you seen that environment adjust to you? For example, in these kinds of moves that you've made, am I making sense?
A little bit. So let me
That's a gift.
let me pull on that thread and let's see what happens. Couple examples, right? So I was born and raised in El Salvador. My parents lived there. Most of my primos live there, and me, my wife, the twins, we go visit probably about twice a year. So when I'm there, I'm el primo, right? Like we meet for like barbecue or go to the lake or the mountains, whatever, right? And nobody makes a big fuss about like what the other does, or like we're just la familia, right? And I try to not bring my baggage with me, so I just I'll just do what we did when we were 12 years old, and probably didn't make a lot of sense then, doesn't make a lot of sense now, but kind of feels about the same. So that's one side of it. The other side is I've never felt that I have to change or diminish or not not be proud of who I am and where I come from. It's that's who I am, and there's nothing I can change about it, right? So why would I even try? Now I was related back to you all here in the room. I was at an Alpha event a few years back, and one at the end of it, I was speaking, on behalf of Deloitte and kind of what we do in the practice, things like that. And at the end of it, one of the students came to me and asked me, "Hey, Carlos, I'd like to know how have you been able to get to where you are despite your background or your heritage?" I don't know, that hit me hard. And like, no, that's BS. I'm where I am because of my heritage, right? And I'm proud of it, and you should be too. So there's nothing that there's nothing to be, like, just that's who you are, right? So why change it?
Andy, can I ask you a similar question? Because you're also in a very large organization. And are there moments where you have felt that, hey, the organization has to change for me, or I have to change for the organization? How have you handled that, if it's come up?
I think things have changed naturally over the years. I think, and for me too. I mean, at the beginning, and I said this before, I was very self-aware of my accent, and every time I had to stand up in a stage and present, I was like making almost an excuse. And I remember there was here at the Marist School of Business, a communication coach once told me, "Stop apologizing. Like, this is interesting. Accents are interesting." Interesting thing, but it would take me hours to write an email at the beginning, not just because of sometimes the language, but I mean culturally, I was a lot more assertive. Like Argentinians are a little bit, assertive, but and a lot more direct, and that is the culture, right? And so I was like, why do they go in circles to say this? Just say it, But I had to learn because I was told you're too assertive. And so I think that, some of those things, and eventually now I go to Argentina and tell me, what happened to you? I'm too humble now. So I think there is kind of a symbiotic, it goes both ways. And people that know me have learned a lot about my culture, and they learn to appreciate some of the things that I bring to the table. Like, I chit-chat before every meeting. Like, I want to know about their families. I want to tell them about mine. And there is a little of that kind of, I don't know, we like to waste time. Latinos don't like to start on time and things like that. And they've embraced some of those things, right? Definitely food, but also it's about educating, right? Because eventually the accent opens up the question, where are you from? And you start opening up that world to the people here. Everybody's curious. They want to know. And you have a role as an ambassador. because it's up to us to educate and demystify certain things. I remember Experian opened up an operation center many, many years ago in Chile. And at the beginning, they sent their very low level, back office type of roles. And I'm like, what are you doing? Some of the best universities and mathematicians are in Argentina and Chile. Why are you sending like the low level? And it was that, kind of a couple of years to realize, wait a minute, we have like really, really sharp people down here. And it's a little bit of that myth, but it's not ill-intended. It's not an intention to kind of, profile or whatever. It's just ignorance. So we have the responsibility to be the ambassadors, right? And for our cultures and open up the door. Now we have 700 people down there, and I have like the best statisticians in my Argentinian team. So, that's.
But that's something that you were able to bring to the business because of your background,
Right.
Again, back to Carlos's point, not in spite of who
Not
I
in
am, but
spite.
because of who I am. Yeah. And Elva, let me ask you a slightly different question, because obviously,
Opposite, yeah.
yeah, I was going to say, not only are you not in like a dominant business that is reflective of society as a whole, but you're like in like the uber Latino
We need
business.
to include more English speakers.
Can you say a little bit about what diversity looks like from where you are sitting, which is very different, really, from other places?
Yeah, it's definitely very different because, as you might imagine, we're a Hispanic business. Of the 13 owners, some don't speak English, right? And these are the owners of the business. So I think at the beginning, Northgate was very Spanish focused. A lot of, associates that didn't speak Spanish would say, hey, we don't feel included. So we actually had to do the opposite. So we're fully bilingual in every communication. Within the store, again, it's that odd, mixture, because I think our differentiator is that we're authentically Mexican, right? So I think we need to stay authentically Mexican, but we also need to obviously be diverse and inclusive within our workforce. And that's when we became, fully bilingual, taking, different cultures in. Everyone loves Mexican food, right? But you don't need to be Mexican to be part of Northgate. So that was a really interesting shift because, we weren't being inclusive and diverse, but in the opposite way. We needed to include more people that weren't Mexican, So we definitely have gone through that change. And even on the customer side, how do we balance, we need to stay authentically Mexican. That's our differentiator. That's what Amazon and, Albertson don't have, right? It's the only way we'll survive is we continue to be authentically Mexican. But how do we, everyone loves Mexican food, right? So how do we invite, non-Mexicans to shop Northgate, the food explorers, right? How do we innovate while still being authentically Mexican? A great point someone brought up is, why do you have sushi at Northgate, right? and so now we're looking at it and we're saying, well, maybe we'll try to swap it and have more of a Sinaloa style sushi, right? So
I was wondering.
yeah. So kind of finding ways to still stay true and authentic, but still, invite others to the beautiful culture that we have, right? The Mexican culture is beautiful. Everyone loves Mexican food. So how do we invite, those other diverse groups into our business while still staying true to our core, which is authentically Mexican?
Thank you. We've had a chance to hear a lot from our speakers. I do want to take a few minutes and just open up the conversation to our audience. If there are people that would have a question that you would like to ask from our panelists, this would be a moment where I would hand off the mic and hopefully let somebody else try to make a little bit of sense instead of me.
I can speak loudly.
This is a good thing in a Latin crowd, right?
It's just to create community. Can I ask you to say your name, maybe a program where you're coming from, just so we can get to know each other?
Okay. Yeah, my name is Jerry Gonzalez. I am in the FEMBA program. I work for Amazon, so I know you mentioned. It's like, I'm gonna take some notes, take it back, authentically Mexican. But, my question is for Carlos. I know you mentioned that you had a conversation with a senior partner that changed your career, or kind of how you approached it. Like, what adjustments did you make?
Great question. Up to that point, I think I was doing what I would describe as the busy work, and I was always putting the busy work ahead of my career. When I got that advice from this partner, who's great guy and a great friend to this date, it really helped me understand I have to flip this. I have to put my career first, and then the busy work, right? And on top of all of that has to be my family, because why am I doing this, right? If it's not for my family, then there's no point, right? So understanding that I had to first define like what were those career aspirations that I wanted to accomplish, and what were the things that I was doing that were taking me closer to that versus what were the things that were, detracting or taking away from getting there, right? So that helped me over a period of time. I mean, this doesn't happen overnight, but over a period of time, divest those things that, okay, I'm in these industries or these types of clients that for what I want to do, which I defined as healthcare technology is what I'm passionate about. So if I'm in, let's say, retail clients, for example, then, is that taking me closer to my goals in healthcare, right? And healthcare leaders and things like that. So it helped me get that clarity of, taking on more assignments in that space, building my network, in that space very purposefully. And over time that led to, okay, Carlos is the healthcare technology guy, right? So back from being, peanut butter, like, hey, we need, we need 20 people, and, Carlos shows up in the list to, there's a serious, security issue at a healthcare organization. Who's the guy for that? Okay, we need to bring Carlos, right? So that's the difference. And again, it didn't happen overnight, and it wasn't easy, but it's something that gave me that clarity and that purpose to define. I really have to own this, right? And I have to make the hard choices to get there.
You say it didn't happen overnight. Just out of curiosity, how long do you estimate that pivot took you?
So I had a conversation around August 2013, because my daughters were born in July, so I know exactly when it happened, and they were weeks old. And it probably wasn't until like the beginning of 2015, like late 2014, 2015, that I was fully, in the healthcare space.
People recognized you.
People recognized me. So it's like a solid year and a half.
That actually sounds remarkably fast.
That's
for a pivot of this.
That's what happens when you have purpose, when you're driven by purpose versus I'll just coast and see what happens.
I
think I saw another hand over here. Yes, please.
You could
Introduce yourself as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
I can sit down. No problem. First, thank you to UCI, Paul Mirage School of Business, for inviting us and for organizing this event. Thank you to the speaker. Great story. And I have a question for Evelyn. I finished a dissertation in 2015 that I passed.
Congratulations.
And the thesis is called, the dissertation is called The Future Society of America, a Hispanic Paradox. And I compare and contrast the good things, that America has and the bad things that we have as Hispanics, right? Here, like education, that we don't graduate enough, like the prior speaker mentioned. And one of the things that I had difficulties with was to find examples of great companies. And I just want you guys, because you have been incredible, strategic and tactical. What I mean for this, for instance, strategically, right? You have always been buying the right locations from the big supermarket chains, the 10 cents.
Made some mistakes, but yes, mostly.
Like in San Diego, you invested, and you acquired. And for a mid-sized business like yours, that is not normal. Plus, you have to constrain all the members of your family are the ones that run the store, which make it even more difficult for you. So, but what is the strategic and tactical process that you follow? Because I didn't get to that part, okay? But I see now that you changed from having your own band now to Uber, you know, which for a big company that would be unheard of, especially their union, right? But in any case, how do you go about, you know, developing your strategic and tactical plans? Thank you.
Thank you. And I promise
Can I
I did
ask
not
when
pay
are we
him to
getting
be
the
there.
South Orange County Northgate?
Sorry?
Can I ask when we're getting the South Orange County Northgate?
Yeah, there's going to be a Costa Mesa one. There's also, yes, probably 2024. Because it's going to be like a crazy concept. They're going to have like puestos. It's going to be different. We're going to try to do more of a mercado concept, but that's why it's taking so long. But to your point, you know, we're taking our time on that one. But in terms of strategy, so Northgate's interesting because it is, you know, a family business. It's smaller, right? We kind of don't have maybe the bureaucracy of other companies. You know, when we want to innovate, we'll say, let's try it. And really, the owners divest a lot of their earnings back into the business. So I think that was crucial. Saying, you know, instead of pocketing this, let's put it back into the business so we can innovate, right? So a lot of times, I think bigger companies don't want to spend that capital, right? Because maybe the business plan isn't perfectly sound. You know, they're not sure it'll work out. But Northgate, I'll tell you, you know, we've spent some things in order to innovate which did not pan out. You know, and other businesses might be like, you know, how can that happen? But for us, it's kind of, you know, it's a part of doing business, right? If we're smaller, again, the owners divest a lot of their earnings back into the company as an investment. You know, not just our people, but also innovative ideas, strategies. So I think being smaller has allowed us to be a little bit more tactical, you know, have a pilot, let's try it. So I think that has been key. And also the unity of the family. I think, you know, family businesses, I'll tell you, there's good, bad, and ugly. But I think there is unity amongst them. So, you know, when they're going to do something big, you know, there's unity in decision. Maybe they don't all agree, but they all agree to move forward and put their best foot forward. So a great, you know, idea is this Costa Mesa store. And really it's us trying to do like an Anaheim packing district almost, but, you know, in a Mexican mercado, right? And bring puestos and bring more of that authentic Mexican. And I think, you know, everything we do now is with that idea of, you know, we're not an Amazon. Where is he? You know, we do not have the buying power. We do not have, you know, their scope, right? But we do have a concept that's different. You know, we're honestly authentic. You know, the carnitas is a recipe from my grandfather. He made those carnitas. It's his recipe. So I think, you know, just having every decision with that prism of, you know, that filter of, is this authentically Mexican? Yes. Okay, let's try it. We're gonna divert some funds there. Let's try it out. We're small enough to kind of, you know, it won't be a make it or break it, right? So I think that has really helped us. And again, you know, we're trying to grow, but we're trying to also stay true to our roots, because that's really the strategy there is, yes, we want to innovate, but we don't want to become an Amazon.
Shade. Let me have just one more question.
Actually, may I have this is Director Dr. Chow of Orange County Healthcare Agency. We thank him for all the service as a county through COVID and beyond. Dr. Chow, if you please ask a question and not
I've always been fascinated in the management culture. I believe that most Asian culture are very similar to the Latin culture, and that the core of who we are is the extended family, and that's how we form our approach, set our goal, etc. I'm curious. I think, Evelyn, you speak to the success of Northgate is because your approach to your customer, to your employee is from that family concept of relationship. And Andrea, to some extent, I thought I heard you talk about how you treat your maybe subordinates or colleagues that way. Now that I'm in management with agencies across the county, and I might want to speak from a public agency perspective, I struggle with being criticized that you treat your staff like family. And so number one, staff who don't grow up in that type of philosophy or approach find it very difficult, right, to deal with. And then from a public agency perspective is that conflict of interest, we're not supposed to hire family, but yet your management style is so family oriented. How do you deal with that from an HR perspective? A legal perspective, for that matter?
Good, bad, and ugly, right? Yes, so I actually had this conversation with someone from Stater Brothers, because Stater Brothers actually went away from the family kind of talk and are now their teammates, right? But the thing about Northgate is it is such a family business that we thought that it was true to our culture. And I totally agree, you know, me and this guy from Stater Bros, he's like, well, but how do you make them accountable, right? They're family, you know, they're not teammates, how do you make them accountable? I mean, I shout back at them, my tias make me accountable, they help out. But yes, I definitely see that kind of, that dynamic of, you know, are they, you know, teammates or are they family? Because if they're family, how can you, you know, how can you discipline if you need to discipline, or how do you fire, right, if you need to fire? So yes, I understand the nuance, and that's kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly of a family business, really. But for us, the way we manage it is we're a values-based organization, culture and values. So, you know, a lot of times when we need to let someone go, a lot of times it's, you know, because they weren't true to the values, maybe there was dishonesty, right? So, again, that's the prism we follow in HR is, you know, is there something that they did wrong that goes against our policy? I mean, family or not, I'm sorry, I gotta tell you the truth, you really messed up. This is against policy, it's against our culture, it's against our values, you know, and that's kind of where we go. But I understand completely your point of view. Like I said, I hashed it out with someone from Stater Bros, but at Northgate, since we are a family business, we thought to continue with that, you know, verbiage maybe of you know, the family in terms of our associates as well. But like I said, you know, just like Mike Diaz will tell me as it is, and if I'm wrong, if it's not, you know, if it's not with our culture, values, or our policies, we are going to have to let you go, family or not, right? So I completely understand, and that's kind of where we're coming from.
Let me maybe ask Andy for your perspective on this question, because you do also talk about the closeness that you're trying to foster and maintain with your peers, with the people all around you. But it's again in more of an Anglo organization. Do you see this kind of a conflict? How do you see it playing out?
I don't, because you know, family doesn't mean that I don't work with mature people, right? And when you role model the values and the standards, it's the opposite. I mean, they actually want to do that's my goal, that not that I have to tell them that they have to do a good job, is that they want to do a good job because they have loyalty and appreciation, because they know that if they do a good job, I'm telling a great story. And if I tell a great story, you know, there's focus, there's resources, there's whatever coming to the team. So I don't, I think that the accountability and the, you know, and assuming everybody is mature, and also learning how to provide the feedback back. Like, you can provide feedback back with love. Like, you know, they know that I come from a place of respect and love, and, you know, and so when you provide the feedback that way, and you do it contextually, so it's not like, 3 years ago, blah, blah, blah." It's like in this situation, like, so if we, learn how to do it, then people take it. And they're not defensive, because they know that we have their best interests at heart. And we've proven to them that that's where we're coming from. So I don't see a conflict.
Thank you. Actually, I'm completely out of time, so I have to apologize. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Please help me thank our speakers for being here.